Welcome back for the third installment of our used electrified VanMoof review. In this episode, I'm going to have to eat a little bit of humble pie, though not too much. I'll tell you why later. First, some background. So I bought this bike about a month ago, believing it could well be the cheapest used electrified VanMoof in the Netherlands. And it was going great until it wasn't, and it wasn't great when it ran out of power in Paris. So I took it to the VanMoof outlet there, and they essentially told me that there was nothing they could do about it on the spot there and then, and that I would have to wait about 1 month before they could really take a good look at it and potentially replace it, and that would still potentially involve getting parts from the Netherlands sent to them in Paris. So the whole procedure would have taken quite a while, and that wasn't really practical given that we were only going to be in Paris for about a week. They were of the impression that it was likely that the issue was the result of a broken controller. They did try to charge it up and plug in power via the USB port, and that for some reason didn't seem to work there and then. So they said, wait till you get back to the Netherlands, take it to the Amsterdam store, and they'll be able to hopefully fix it. And that's what I did. I booked an appointment when I got back to Amsterdam, and then 1 week later they had availability to check it out. They called me back a couple of days later and told me to pick it up, and that's when I found out that there wasn't a real problem with the controller, aside from the fact that it had run out of power and needed to be charged up. So that's why I have to eat some humble pie, though not too much. And I will admit that someone did suggest that I should charge it up via the USB port. I didn't do that. I didn't do that because the people at the Paris store attempted that and it didn't work. Well, at least I thought they attempted that. So VanMoof in Amsterdam has resolved the issue. They resolved it by charging it up. And another reason why I shouldn't have to eat too much humble pie is that I'm confused as to why you would need to charge up the controller via the USB input rather than it being able to be charged through the normal charging procedure, which involves sticking it in this other hole here. I wonder if that's a bit of a design flaw. It doesn't seem very practical. Perhaps they've resolved that in the later editions of this bike, as this is the S1. Anyway, it was a cheap fix, reasonably cheap. If it was the controller, I was told that it was going to cost about 100 to 150 euros to sort out. If it was the battery, I could have been forking out around 600 euros to get fixed, so that would have been a bit distressing. So I got off pretty cheap. In the end, it cost me 88 euros, and that might sound a bit pricey considering that all they needed to do was plug in a device and charge up the controller, but I did get a bit more for the 88 euros, and it was a bit strange because I didn't ask for these things. And what I did get was a new seat, and the missing bit of the plastic chain guard was replaced, and also I think they tightened the brakes and might have done other things. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't get the invoice, and that's another story. Anyway, I'm not complaining. I'm happy that those things were fixed and replaced, although I didn't ask for it. So it seems like pretty good value for that 88 euros. So what's the point of this story? What advice can I leave you with? Well, a few points. I've made this point before, but it's probably important to reiterate. Buying a used electric bike, any used electric bike, is potentially risky. If the battery fails, you're looking at forking out a bit of cash to get it replaced. Fortunately, in my case, the battery seems to be still working pretty well, so that's a relief. The second point is the company did stand by their product. They claimed that they would stand by their product, and in the end that proved to be true, so I'm happy about that, and no complaints at all from my experience with the VanMoof people in Amsterdam. That's a bit of a relief for all VanMoof owners, used VanMoof owners, new VanMoof owners. You can have a bit of faith in the company, in the fact that they will, from my experience at least, stand by their product. The third point is not so good for VanMoof owners who live outside of the Netherlands, in my experience at least. I don't know what it's like in other centres, in other places where VanMoof does have a presence, such as London or New York, if I'm not mistaken, but in Paris it seems as though there would be a bit of a delay if you needed anything done to your bike, and this could be a bit of an issue if you wanted to get back on your bike in less than a month. But in Amsterdam, they're quite efficient, they're quite effective. So the company does seem to be a bit Amsterdam centric, at least from my experience. And that does make me wonder, would it be a good idea having a VanMoof if you lived outside of these centres? Even if you lived in Paris, it might be a bit of a drag if something goes wrong. But if you lived somewhere further away from these centres, it could be a bit of a hassle to get your bike fixed, and I wonder if having an electrified VanMoof is really a feasible option for anyone living too far away from the cities in which they have a presence. That would be definitely something to consider. But if you're living in the Netherlands, it's not too hard to get to Amsterdam. And finally, if anyone has any suggestions as to what I should do with this bike, should I continue to try and improve it, to try and fix it up a bit more and see how it goes, let me know, or whether you think I should just leave it as it is and see what happens down the track, or perhaps just sell it and be done with it. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts, or any other experiences that other people have had with their electrified VanMoofs, perhaps relating to this discussion or adding to it. And finally, if you like this video, please like it, comment if you've got something to say, and as always, subscribe. Thank you.